put blood over the doorpost. So they showed the police were on high alert. And while they were concerned about celebrating what God had done, God was doing something right now. Don't miss that. You don't have to always celebrate what he's done. God is always up to something right now. It was in anticipation for the Messiah showing up, but they have forgotten they can't define how God shows up. He shows up how he wants. And he shows up in the person of Jesus, and this unnamed anonymous girl comes with the alabaster box with expensive perfume and breaks it and anoints or pours it over Jesus' head. And those in the house, we don't know who those are. It just says some that were in the house. We're not sure if they were religious leaders, because Simon was a leper. It could have been some also that were a part of the outcasts. It could have been some that was there that knew Jesus in town and just wanted to hear from Jesus. We're not sure who it is. The text says just some begin to criticize and ask the question. Can you see what the question says? They started to get indignant and talk to one another. And as they were talking to one another, they eventually said what they were talking about. Why the waste? Why the waste? The text says, why the waste? Why the waste? It could have been sold for more than a year's wages, and money could have been given to the poor. Anytime, it challenges me, anytime there's true worship in the form of giving to the Lord, somebody brings up a religious reason why not to worship God.
All right. Come on.
We all know that historically in the law there was always something wrapped up in order to give alms to the poor. But what this says is that sometimes there's a higher law that supersedes giving to the poor. I don't want to mess your theology up, but the tension in the text says that Jesus said, you're going to always have them with you, but me, I'm here right now. The implication is every now and again in the process of giving, there ought to be some right now praise. It's not an either or question. It's really an and both from the Lord's perspective, but they try to make it an either or, but it's really an and both. You want to give alms to those who need, but when God shows up, you want to be able to give him worship. You want to give to somebody in need, but when God is in your presence, you ought to make sure you give him some worship. They were concerned, let me cut through the field, they were concerned about this money issue. As if God doesn't own a cattle on 1,000 hills. They were concerned about this money issue. That if you can't give it to God, he won't press it down, shake it together, and let it run over. They were concerned about money issues, that if he didn't take 2 fish, 5 loaves, and feed thousands. They were concerned about a money issue, that if he didn't raise somebody from the dead. They were concerned about lack, as if God is not the master of taking a little and making it a lot. They were concerned about the money issue and not realizing that God is able and that he will. Let me break it down and share some insight to you. Well, we know this expensive oil that they had, that she brought to the table, was worth about a year of salary. Oftentimes folks would actually store it up as a savings just in case an emergency took place. And so here she is, Jesus shows up, or the Messiah shows up. She receives the revelation and says, I've been saving, but he's worth my giving. I know that didn't shout a lot of folks, but I'm trying to tell somebody, you can save, but every now and again, God is worth all that you got. That might not celebrate some of you, that might not shout some of you, but if you give God all you got, won't he take the little and give you much, much more? I'm trying to tell somebody, she wants to teach us the lesson of what it means to be a Christian. There's never not an opportunity that if God shows up that you can't give, because if you do give, God can't give it back to you. That if you do give, God won't take care of you. That you exercise some faith. That's what we are challenged challenge with being Christians, we want to hoard what God has already blessed us with. And we don't want to present God with the opportunity to bless us more.
Right.
But you got to know your Father. That doesn't take much. After a while, some of you seasoned saints have got to realize you don't have to have a lot stored up in the bank for God to bless you. You ain't got to have a lot stashed in a box. In order for God to give you what you need. That's a commercial, because my wife found me and I had money in the sock and under. She said, you got to bring all that to the table. I said, I ain't used to that. Took me a couple of months. But the truth of the matter, we do God the same way. When we don't trust God enough to bring all the tithes and offering into the storehouse, we criticize and think that if we give it to the church or to that man, then somehow or another God is not going to give or honor our act of giving. But she said, I ain't going to save nothing. I'm going to give all I got to Jesus, and I'm going to let him bless me any way he knows how. The Pilgrim Baptist Church, a little illustration, one illustration. There was a time when I used to go pick up my daughter. Y'all with me, son? Time I used to go pick up my daughter, and I got tired of paying child support and then buying her stuff every week, and she came to my house. got tired of it. One day she came outside, and she came out light. Ain't have no bags, ain't have no toothbrush, ain't have no socks, ain't have no undershirt, ain't have no bobos, ain't have nothing at all. And so what she did, and so I got in the car and she saw the tension on my face. And I said, baby, you got to go back in the house and get what you need. She said, Daddy, I ain't going back in the house. I'm with my father now. I said, baby, you got to go back and get something. I'm tired of buying. She said, no, Daddy. I said, you ain't got no toothbrush. You ain't got no socks. You ain't got no t-shirt. You ain't got no bobo. You ain't got no hair grease. She said, yeah, Daddy, but I got some paint. Anything else I need, Daddy, you gonna give it to me as we go. And that's the kind of faith that God is trying to get us to have. You want to give everything you got and anything you need. God's gonna give it to you as you go. You never thought you'd be as blessed as you are today, but you've been walking with the Lord. You never thought you looked as good as you do today, but you was walking with the Lord. You never thought you could buy a custom-made suit, but you've been walking with the Lord. If you walk with the Lord long enough, everything you need, He's gonna give it to you as you go. That's where we are today. The woman wants to teach us. Authentic Christianity lays it all on the line. Can I dial back just to share a little point with you? She didn't break the bottle or open the bottle and give a little bit. She broke the bottle and poured it all out. There was no backup plan. Everything she had, she laid it on the line as a demonstration of her love for the Lord. And every now and again, God calls you to lay it all on the line. Look at the text. He wants to lay it on the line. Let me just share this with you. Because there are some folks still sizing him up. Notice in the house, there's Simon there. He could have been healed by the Lord. There's his boys there. There's the critics there. Everybody's sizing Jesus up. And this woman shows up and demonstrates who she is. And every now and again, you not always are going to be in an environment that's going to be celebratory towards who the Lord is.
That's right.
But you have to be able to come in and act with some face while folks are sizing him up. They want to hear who he is. You want to start living who he is. They want to critique who he is because you know who he is. You're going to demonstrate it through your action. They sizing him up. And she shows up. wink on you and I got your way. Text simply says that somehow or another, she shows up in between a plot and a plan. Mark inserts this particular story to tell us that every now and again, you have the right and you ought to have the audacity, no matter what's going up in the world, to show up and give God the praise. We ought to not determine or decide what we're going to give to God based on what's going on in the economy. We ought to not determine or decide what we're going to give to God based on how prosperous America is. We ought to not determine or decide what we're going to give to God based on what other folks are doing. In between the plot and the plan, she shows up with all her savings and said, it all belongs to you. Let me close it now. Text simply says, little thought perspective, she shows up and when you do all that you could do, watch the Lord respond. There's going to come a time where God will respond to your act of faith. And you can wait on the Lord because he does seize and will respond. Look at his response. He told everybody, be quiet. You had your interpretation of the situation, but let me tell you what really happened. She showed up, and what she did was beautiful. I thought to myself, how can what she did be beautiful? She said, this young lady painted a picture of what beauty is. So if you want to have a portrait of what beauty is when we are seen giving God our best. All right. If you want folks to be a witness to your faith, you ought to let them see the beauty of your faith. And the beauty of your faith is when you do something that honors God with all that you got. She paints a picture for everybody to see. Just like every now and again, ain't nothing wrong with a man with his head is lifted high. That's a picture. Ain't nothing wrong with the church celebrating. That's a picture. Ain't nothing wrong with you dancing to the offering plate. That's a picture. Ain't nothing wrong with you telling somebody about who saved your soul. That's a picture. Every now and again, there's a sweet smell of your faith in God that you paint by what you do. Let me drop it. Here's what she says. This challenges me one day. It says, the poor you will always have with you, and you can help them anytime. In other words, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for you to help the poor. But watch what he says, but you will not always have me. She did what she could. In other words, the Lord says she did the best that she could. And that's all that God is requesting, is for you to do the best that you could. For you to give God the best that you could. It may not be what he's saying, just give the best that you could. I gotta go further. He says this. He said she did what she could. She poured the perfume on my body beforehand to prepare for my burial. Truly I tell you, whatever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will always be told in memory of her.
Yes, sir.
Now I like that because text simply shares with us why you don't have to run around trying to get your name called.
All right.
Because we still don't know her name. You don't have to go around trying to get a title. Because we still don't know what she did. You don't have to go around seeking a seat because we still don't know where she came from. But God is going to honor your works, and your works will speak for themselves. I like that. He said, don't bother her. Don't trouble her. Don't fret. Don't bother her. Don't trouble her. Don't fret. She's doing the good thing. Don't bother her. Don't trouble her. Don't fret. She's doing the best thing. Don't bother her. Don't trouble her. She's doing the best that she can. Don't bother her. Don't trouble her. She's doing all that she can.